Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Political State from the Oklahoman. I'm Ben Felder. Joining me this week in studio is our federal government reporter, Justin Wingeter. Justin, welcome.
Good to be here.
And today we are going to kind of focus our conversation on elections and more specifically congressional races in 2018 here in Oklahoma. And one of the reasons we're going to do that, besides the fact that there are some interesting things to talk about, is this may be the last week we can really dive into that, a non-capital topic. Yeah. I mean, we could spend the whole episode talking about the state capitol today as a teacher strike looms on April 2nd. The legislature, some members are still trying to pass education funding and teacher pay raise proposals. Others seem to say, let's just wait till the second and see what happens. I imagine that next week's episode we'll spend a lot of time kind of previewing what at this point looks like is going to be pretty likely an April 2nd strike that will last for who knows how long, and we'll continue to follow that. So this week, let's take a little bit of a break from the strike, a break for me because I've been reporting a lot on the strike. But you've been, not a break for you, because you've been reporting this week on this on congressional races, specifically with the 5th congressional race, so the district that includes Oklahoma City. We talked about this a little bit on last week's episode, but remind us again, this is a district that maybe is shifting a little bit?
Yeah, and we've talked about it on the podcast over the last, several months, I guess. And this is a district that for years has been shifting. I mean, this is not even something necessarily this year. Mm-hmm. What's new this year is a possible wave election in November across the country. And Democrats are looking pretty good. Republicans are getting nervous across the country. And so if you had a wave election, this district suddenly becomes competitive. We've said it's competitive before. I mean, I think it is not a safe district for Republicans, in this case, Congressman Steve Russell, any longer. Obviously, anytime you have an incumbent in a Republican district, that incumbent has to get the odds-on favorite, and he still is, no doubt about that. However, in a wave election, if Democrats make huge gains in November, and you have a strong Democratic candidate here, you could have a competitive race in November.
So this is not a Costa re-election situation for Russell like it may have been in the past.
Like it may have been in the past, and like it is for probably every other Republican in the state and members of Congress in November.
Well, we want to talk about some of the local issues that make this a reason why, but let's talk nationally. You talk about kind of a potential for a wave election right now, and this is common. I mean, one party wins the White House, the other party kind of reels for a couple of years, and in recent cycles we've seen kind of comes in with a roar in the midterm elections. The 5th congressional district, I kind of look at it like in the 2018 election year. It's kind of the point of that exclamation mark for Democrats, right? I mean, winning the 5th congressional district would still be a pretty big get for Democrats nationally, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it would kind of be the proof that this is a wave election, Yeah. If the waves, which start on the coast, not to overdo this metaphor, but if they reach Oklahoma, I mean, that is really a sign in middle America that you have a Republican district go Democratic. It would truly be a wave election. And that's probably what it will take. You'll need, first of all, an indication that the Democrats have a chance. And then you need some national Democratic money probably to help the Democratic candidate here. And then you would just need, you'd really need turnout. I mean, this is why this district has been shaping. I was talking to a political analyst who does statistical models last week, and he was telling me they punched in the numbers for the 5th district, a district he had never been to, didn't know anything about, and it punched out that this was a blue district. This was a Democratic district. And that's because you have African Americans, you have Hispanics, you have fewer evangelicals than you do elsewhere in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And so if you look strictly at the demographics, this could be, it's a toss-up sort of district. But for 44 straight years, it's been a Republican district, at least in terms of who it's sent to Congress. So that is really remarkable that you have such a difference in turnout there, that even though on paper it looks like it could be even a blue district or at very least a toss-up district, it has been a staunchly Republican district. That is because suburban Republicans and evangelical Republicans come out in waves when minority voters typically do not.
Yeah, well, and you talk about how this district is a little different than the rest of the state, and I imagine that a Republican that lives in Oklahoma City, a Republican that lives in, say, Edmond or the suburbs, is still going to be a little different than the Republican you're going to find in Woodward, Oklahoma, or somewhere in kind of the rural parts of the state. And I would imagine that if we have a president who is embattled come November, where Republicans are getting a lot of criticism, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of movement in Congress, which has been the case for a while. So it's safe to say that might be what it looks like come November. You're going to see maybe a lot of districts like Oklahoma City where that turnout is going to be higher for Democrats. Now, on the flip side, I imagine it's possible that the type of Republican you'd find in rural Oklahoma may be a little bit more emboldened. It could be more on the defensive. I mean, Trump's, I don't know that it's safe to say that Oklahoma was Trump's base, before he was elected president, but the Republican establishment in Oklahoma has rallied around this president. I mean, he is their guy, yes. And they're going to defend him. You may see a Republican in western Oklahoma defend the president in a way that a Republican in Edmond, who's more moderate, may not be really willing to do so, right?
Yeah, and this goes for actually Republicans and Democrats. But yes, how much support he has in this district, how much support Trump has in this district, will play a factor. Just a quick recap. This district is almost all of Oklahoma County, minus a little sliver in the south, which is around Tinker. It's a Midwest City, Del City area. And then it's all of Potawatomi and all of Seminole counties, rural counties. You have high evangelical turnout. Evangelicals have traditionally backed Trump. Some have had some disagreements. I mean, his behavior is a little different for them. And so how much evangelicals back Trump will be interesting. How much suburban, highly educated whites will back Trump will also be interesting. That's another demographic where he's not always done very well with. And then this is also important in terms of Democrats. The sort of Democrats you get in Oklahoma City are different than the Democrats that used to run eastern Oklahoma, for example, or other, south central Oklahoma, or Lawton even. And so, and Pat McFerrin was making this point, Republican pollster and strategist, many of our viewers probably know that, but he was making this point that Democrats here typically elect sort of a urban liberal Democrat to run up against Russell. That probably is not going to work well. It's definitely not going to work well in Potawatomi and Seminole counties. It's not going to work as well in even Edmond, for example, or other places in the district outside of downtown Oklahoma City. So Democrats have to watch who they elect here. If they go with more of a moderate choice, to me that seems like someone who could bring in a big umbrella, bring in independents, bring in more Democrats, and bring in maybe even some Republicans who are a little turned off by the president.
Yeah, and when you look at the last few years for Democrats in Oklahoma, the one shining moments they've had, the few shining moments they've had, have mostly been in Oklahoma County, have been in this district. If you look at the legislative districts that they've been able to win, they've been in northwest and western Oklahoma City on the south side now. I mean, so those are where they've had some success. So, there's probably a hope that, hey, this is becoming more of a Democratic district. When you talk about who those candidates are is going to be important. Who are the candidates for the Democrats?
Right. So you have 4 Democrats running against Russell. You have Tom Guild, who has run many times before, very progressive, very liberal, from Edmond, former professor. You have Kendra Horn getting in for the first time, certainly has most of the money right now, strong fundraiser. She's been, I made the mistake once of calling her a political novice, and there were some people that are quick to correct me there. She's very involved in politics. She's taking what I consider to be like a Tom Cole approach to electoral politics. She's traditionally worked behind the scenes on campaigns, backing candidates, helping them get organized. Now she's kind of jumping in for herself. And she knows a lot about campaigns, a lot about what it takes to run as a Democrat in this red state we are in. So you have those two who are probably leading the field just because they've been out there a little, they're jumped in a little sooner. They've been able to raise some money. And you have Elizabeth Britt, who just recently jumped in. Don't know much about her. We don't know what kind of fundraising she'll be able to pull off because we haven't seen an FEC report from her yet. We will here in mid-April, so a few more weeks. And you have Ed Porter, who is also running, also a first-time candidate, jumping in there. Really hopes to pull in the labor vote. He has a strong background and kind of a blue-collar nature to him. So for Democrats, I mean, I would expect that you'll probably have a runoff. That no one candidate can get more than 50% in that June, but we'll see. I mean, those four haven't had a whole lot of time to even differentiate themselves from one another. That's going to heat up here. We'll see who files to run, of course, with the state, and then after that we'll start taking a more in-depth look at the candidates here at the Oklahoma and to our readers. So
yeah.
Those are the four Democrats lining up to run against Russell, and Russell is unopposed in the Republican primary.
Are you getting any kind of sense whether or not the National Democratic Party would be willing to pump some money into this race? I mean, are you getting a sense that that would happen, or who that candidate would be, that the Democrats would actually see that, hey, we may actually have a shot in this race?
I am seeing an indication that no, I don't think there's much interest from the National Democratic Party, which has traditionally been kind of hesitant to jump into races. It picks its battles. I think every party picks its battles for that matter, but it picks its battles, and so it often does not get into races that have been Republican for this long. A district that's been staunchly Republican for like I said, 44 years, dating back to the Watergate election of '74. So. Right now, no. I mean, something would have to change and keep changing if it kept, building momentum towards a Democratic wave, and you saw this district start to indicate that it could go blue, then that could change. Or someone could win without national money. I mean, you can do that. Yeah. It's much more difficult, but it is possible. So I would think if they were going to pick a candidate, it would be Kendra Horn, just because she can, when you look at a Republican district, you want someone who can bring in a big umbrella of candidates. And so I would think that would be their sort of candidate, just knowing she just seems more establishment Democrat candidate. Not telling you, who's going to win the primary or anything else. And I'm just guessing really on who they would probably want to back, but that would be my guess.
Yeah. Well, and it can, in November, the November election can still be a big night for Democrats, even if they don't win. As you said, this is kind of the, it would take a wave election, but this would be really where the, you talk about those waves coming in from the coast. It kind of makes me think of is it Deep Impact, that movie where there's a big asteroid and they all have to go into the center of the country. Like if Oklahoma is the last patch of dry ground, it means the rest of the country was flooded, but it could still be dry here. If Oklahoma gets wiped out, then it's going to be pretty bad for Oklahoma, or for Republicans, I mean. So do you get a sense for what issue could this race hinge on? I mean, in addition to the perception of the White House and Congress and just some of the national issues as a whole in party politics, is there an issue that you think that coming down the stretch that whoever is the Democratic candidate going against Russell, that is going to be kind of the dominant talking point? I
would say it's an issue we don't yet know about. It's something that's going to come up here in the next 6 months that we don't yet even, it's not even on our radar yet. Because if you had asked me that question 6 months ago, and you may actually have done it on the show, I would have said healthcare. And that was obviously the dominant political issue last year, an issue that did not work out well for Republicans, just looking at polling, not taking a position on Obamacare, but that was an issue that Democrats saw gains in polling from the debate over Obamacare. That issue probably is not going to come up much, but we don't know. Steve Russell would like the debate to be about taxes and tax reform, which he clearly believes is a winning issue. Most Republicans do. And so he would like that to be the debate. It could be any number of things. Foreign policy could change in a heartbeat, this year. So it'll be interesting. I really think it'll be something that comes up in this short attention span we have right now. I don't think it's something that we even quite know about. If there's going to be something that really, one issue that shifts the election, otherwise it'd just be issues that, like healthcare or taxes, issues that are in immigration, things that keep coming up that, have not gone away for years now.
Yeah, well, you talk about healthcare, and it seems like forever ago, but it was just a few months ago that was like the big, that was the big topic nationally, as Congress is trying to repeal Obamacare, and they were trying to push through their healthcare reform efforts. And I did ask you 6 months ago on this show, and healthcare was the answer, or at least at some point, and Horn was kind of running on that platform. And I remember at the time, Democrats were saying, if this is going to play well for us in the next election, which was still a year away. And then we went to taxes. And there was a fight over that, and Democrats were saying, Republicans were saying, hey, this is going to benefit us come Election Day because Americans are going to see more money in their pocket. Those are two issues we're not even talking about anymore. I mean, they're not in the psyche. And whatever the issue is, even 3 months out, may not be the issue come Election Day. I mean, with the way things turn. I think about what are some potential issues that could just come up. I mean, traditionally, issues that come out of nowhere are typically like foreign policy, whether there's, the issues of a military conflict. You look at terrorism. I mean, those are traditionally the kind of issues that kind of pop up, and it's impossible to say who would benefit from one of those. And I also think you have to throw in the president. I mean, who knows what the status, the political health of President Trump is going to be. I mean, 3 months, he could be stronger or he could be weaker. I think it's just kind of a guess. I don't think it's a far-fetched guess or anything, but I wonder if Democrats start to feel like they actually have a legitimate shot of winning the House. How much would impeachment be brought up? I mean, especially depending on where this investigation goes. And I bring that up to say that actually could be dangerous here for a Democratic candidate.
Oh, absolutely.
Nationally, you may see Democrats in some districts saying, "Hey, we win the House, and the Senate. We're going to move towards impeachment, especially if new things have come out from the investigation." But I don't know. In a more moderate district like Oklahoma City, you may see some, moderates and some Republicans who say, "Well, we're not for impeachment. That's not. Well, we're not going to vote for. We're not going to go to the Democrat now because we just don't want to see us go down that path."
This came up a little bit in the Pennsylvania race. They recently had a special election. There was some talk among Republicans that they should run on this idea that if you elect Conor Lamb, the Democrat, you're electing someone who could impeach the president. You're voting for impeachment, which in a very Republican district would seemingly work in favor of Republicans. So that issue came up then, and yeah, I mean, it's getting a little ahead of ourselves, but that very well could become an issue. Just the talk of it, the threat of it, I mean, I don't think impeachment itself is going to be an issue this year, but the idea that, you could be setting the stage for a future Congress like that would really be interesting.
Well, yeah, and it works, but like you just said, it works both ways. I mean, for Republicans, it can become a rallying cry. And that's why I think you could see, a situation where it's, maybe the Republican turnout actually goes up than we normally see in some more rural conservative districts of Oklahoma and western and eastern Oklahoma, where voters are like, hey, I'm going to go vote for the Republican candidate because that's a vote in favor of the president. And like I said, I mean, it could go both ways. Well,
if this becomes a close race, a name you'll hear from Republicans quite a bit in this district is Nancy Pelosi and Speaker Pelosi. Do you really want a Speaker Pelosi? If so, I mean, then go ahead and vote for the Democrat. But otherwise, and that will be a bit of a scare tactic, I think, from Republicans in this district if they need to use it, if this becomes a close race.
Yeah, I mean, you're already hearing that some, but yeah, especially in a district like this, you would imagine, that's, once again, I mean, the districts closer to the coast, look different than they do here. I mean, I think you're right that this may be a possible grab for Democrats, but it's still going to take a lot of work. And one thing you mentioned on last week's episode, and I don't know that we mentioned it today. One of the things is political observers are seeing this as a more, even recently trending more. I mean, you wrote earlier this week that by one political observing organization that they kind of moved the needle a little bit on Oklahoma from what was it from. A
solid Republican to likely Republican. And I went back to our archives, and this was something our colleague Chris Castile was writing about 4 years ago. Tom Cole was talking about this 4 years ago. This district was trending Democratic. It was just a matter of how quickly is it trending, and a lot of other factors that play into that. But one of those factors would be a wave election, so that would kind of speed up the way it's trending Democratic. And if you really want to get out ahead of things, and we do on the show, so let's just go. But if when you start looking at redistricting and who wins the governor's race, who's the governor when they redistrict after the 2020 census, and is there an attempt to make this district a safer Republican district by, you could do it a number of different ways.
Go in any direction.
Yeah, and because once you get outside the city, you're getting into a more Republican area, so you would just carve off something. But that, I mean, if there's a Republican governor, that becomes an easy process. If there's a Democrat governor, it gets a little trickier. There are, like I said, that's really kind of getting a few years ahead. But
important to think about. And you talked about this district currently has parts of Midwest City and Del City. I mean, you could just flip it the other way and go towards Piedmont. I mean, and you know, and you're picking up probably more likely you're picking up more Republican voters that way, and maybe even, I mean, Del City is represented by a Democrat in the state house. I mean, it's, you know, and then you're kind of shifting away those Democrat votes to a more conservative district. So it's definitely a relevant topic. Because
traditionally the city has been carved up a little bit in terms of congressional districts. I was talking this week with Ernest Istuk, who represented the district for 7 terms, I believe it was. But he represented the district at a time when it was kind of a slice of that northern part. It was, you know, part of the city, but also Edmond and some areas like that. And for a long time, this was a Frank Lucas district even. He represented downtown, where we're sitting right now, at the time of the bombing and other times. So that's a little different too. I mean, this district has been cut up. What is now the district has sometimes been 2 or even 3 districts, and the city has been cut up a little bit. You could go back to that and make it probably a safer area for Republicans if you didn't include the entire Oklahoma City.
Yeah, in a few years it could look different on the map. It could look different in terms of who's represented it. We'll have to wait and see. And it's not the only election. It may be the most interesting one. But real quick, what are some of the other races on the congressional front this year?
Yeah, you have one other really interesting race in the first. First district, it's Tulsa and a little bit of the suburbs as well. But, I mean, that's an open seat. Jim Bridenstine is retiring, not strictly because of the NASA thing. He said he was going to retire anyway after serving 3 terms. He term limited himself. Now he may not actually get the NASA job. That's a whole other topic, which we've talked about here and in print quite a bit. But yeah, there are 5 Republicans, I believe. Yeah, kind of a crowded race there, and a race to the right, really. I mean, to be the most conservative in that district. You have Kevin Hearn, you have Andy Coleman, Senator Nathan Dahm is in that race. I mean, so a lot of money flowing very early on, and a lot of positioning to be further and further to the right, the most conservative candidate in a very conservative district. So that's going to be an interesting one just on the primary. You know, you wouldn't expect the general to be much of anything. The second district also has a lot of candidates. Mark Wayne Mullen also made a term limit pledge but didn't follow it, so he is the incumbent. He's running again. Certainly a heavy favorite. He has a couple of candidates, Republican candidates, running mostly again to his right, which is hard to do. He's pretty conservative himself, but there are some going even further to the right. Jaron Jackson, who lost to him handily in 2016, is running again with the backing of Tom Coburn, who's been sort of a patron to him, I think, politically, and has backed him quite a bit. Otherwise, you have Brian Jackson, who's a professor in Tahlequah. You have, on the Democratic side, you have Jason Nichols, who's the mayor of Tahlequah. Where is our friend Dale when we need him?
Oh, true, yeah.
Tahlequah native, I believe, and it's definitely his home district. But so yeah, you have a couple Democrats in there. Nichols seems to be kind of leading the pack among the Democrats there. He's getting out quite a bit, but that's such a strange district too in a lot of ways, where if everyone who voted, everyone who was registered to vote voted, it goes Democrat again, because you have so many more registered Democrats in that district than Republicans, at least as of a couple of years ago. I'd have to check the numbers again, but clearly that has become a solidly Republican district the last 10 years or so out there in eastern Oklahoma. Third and fourth districts, there's not a lot happening there. I mean, these are solid, veteran lawmakers. Regardless of what you think of them, they are well entrenched. And that's Frank Lucas, of course, in the third, and Tom Cole down south in the fourth. There is a pro-life Democrat running against Cole, but it's a long shot. I mean, anytime you're running against one of those two, either in a primary or a general election, you're looking at a long shot bid. So those two should be pretty safe. There's no Senate race, so that leaves just the fifth, which I think we've covered quite a bit.
definitely have. So an interesting primary to watch here in a couple of months, but obviously the fifth district as we get closer to November. We appreciate that. Well, for the next few weeks, it's likely we'll be talking about more of what's coming out of the state capitol, which this week really wasn't a lot. Well, that's not fair. Dale's had quite a bit of stories and some other bills that have been moving through, but at least with all the attention on education and the pending teacher strike, there hasn't been a lot of new developments in that. So this time next week, we'll probably be coming on the show to talk about some kind of plan that is moving its way through the legislature or has just been approved, or we'll be setting up a teacher strike, a massive statewide teacher strike that is likely to start in a couple of days. Either way, we'll be with you here on another episode of Political State. Justin, thanks so much. We will see you again next week. For the Oklahoman, I'm Ben. Thanks for watching.